Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel, where we learn English through powerful and emotional stories. Today's story is about one of the most inspiring leaders of our time, a man who rose from a humble tea seller to become the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy. This is the life story of Shri Narendra Modi, and the title of today's story is The Journey of a Leader. Let's begin. The Journey of a Leader. The life story of Shri Narendra Modi. Chapter 1. Born for a Purpose. The sun had just begun to rise over the dusty lanes of Vadnagar, a small town in Gujarat, India. The year was 1950. Birds chirped softly, the air smelled of morning dew, and life moved at its usual quiet pace. In a modest home made of mud bricks, a baby cried, his voice strong, sharp, and clear. That baby was Narendra Damodardas Modi, born on September 17, 1950, the third of 6 children in a lower middle-class family. His father, Damodardas Mulchand Modi, ran a small tea stall at the local railway station. His mother, Hiraben Modi, was a devoted homemaker, gentle and strict in equal measure. Life was hard, but it was honest. The Modi family didn't have much, no wealth, no luxuries, but they had something far greater: love, values, and dreams. From a very young age, Narendra was different. He was quiet, thoughtful, and observant. While other children played for hours, young Narendra would help his father serve tea to travelers and railway workers. He'd carefully listen to the conversations of the people who passed by. He learned that every person had a story, and every story mattered, but even at that age, he had questions. Why do some people live in big houses, while others sleep on the streets? Why do some children go to school, while others work all day? These weren't just thoughts, they were seeds of something bigger, growing quietly inside him. At school, he wasn't the top of the class, but he was curious. He loved history. He loved listening to tales of great leaders, saints, and warriors of India. He admired their courage, their sacrifice, and above all, their service to the nation. But life was not easy. After school, he'd rush to help at the tea stall, washing cups, wiping tables, and carrying heavy kettles. Some children laughed at him. Some people ignored him, but he never complained. In every cup of tea he served, he found dignity. He learned that no work is small and that every drop of sweat has value. There was one more thing young Narendra loved: the river. Every day, after helping his father, he would walk to the nearby Sharmista lake, sit by the water, and watch the sun set behind the trees. It was there he would dream. Dreams not of money or fame, but dreams of doing something big for his country. One evening, when he was just 8 years old, he told his mother, "Ma, one day, I want to serve Bharat Mata." His mother smiled, touched his cheek, and said, "Then serve with a pure heart, beta. No matter what you become, be good." That night, under the stars of Vadnagar, a silent promise was made. A child's dream had taken its first breath. Chapter 2. The Call to Serve. Years passed, and the boy from Vadnagar was no longer just helping at the tea stall. He was growing into a young man, full of questions, curiosity, and a deep desire to serve his country. Narendra was now a teenager, but unlike many of his friends who dreamed of jobs or running family businesses, Narendra dreamed of something else: a life of purpose. One day, while visiting the local library, he came across a book about Swami Vivekananda. It changed everything. Swami Vivekananda had said, "Arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached." These words struck Narendra like lightning. He read about Vivekananda's teachings on youth, character, discipline, and the spiritual strength of India. It was as if he had found a mirror to his soul. He began spending more time alone, reading, thinking, and writing. He started waking up before sunrise, meditating near the lake, and questioning the meaning of life. At the age of 17, something extraordinary happened. Without telling anyone, not even his family, Narendra left home. He packed a small bag, said a silent goodbye, and boarded a train. He wanted to travel across India, to understand his country, its people, and its soul. He became a wanderer, a seeker. From the Himalayas in the north to the rivers of the south, from ancient temples to quiet ashrams, Narendra walked, meditated, worked, and listened. He met monks, saints, and poor farmers. He spent time in Ramakrishna mission ashrams, where he cleaned floors and helped cook for others. He lived with very little, sometimes just one meal a day, but his heart was full. In the mountains of Belur Math, sitting by the Ganges River, Narendra felt something deep inside him stir. He didn't want to become a monk. He didn't want to run away from the world. He wanted to return and serve the people. After 2 years of travel, he came back to Vadnagar, older, thinner, quieter, but stronger. His mother wept with joy. His father was proud, though he didn't fully understand what his son had become. Soon after, Narendra joined an organization that would shape the next chapter of his life, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS. The RSS was a volunteer organization that believed in discipline, service, and love for the nation. It trained young people to become strong leaders, not just physically, but morally and spiritually. Narendra threw himself into the work. He lived simply, no salary, no comfort. He wore plain clothes, ate simple food, and traveled from village to village on a bicycle, talking to people, helping them in need, and organizing camps for children. People began to notice something about him. He was not like the others. He was focused, humble, and tireless. He would work from sunrise to midnight, often skipping meals, never seeking praise. One senior leader once asked him, "Modi ji, don't you ever get tired?" And Narendra smiled and replied, "When you work for Bharat Mata, you don't get tired. You feel blessed." But even as he rose through the ranks, he stayed grounded. He kept a diary, he wrote poems, he prayed every day, and he reminded himself of the boy who once served tea and dreamed of serving India. This chapter of Narendra Modi's life was not filled with power or fame. It was filled with preparation, years of silent struggle, deep thinking, and inner growth. Because before destiny calls a leader to the stage, it first calls him to sacrifice. Chapter 3: Rising Through the Ranks. By the late 1970s, India was changing, and so was Narendra Modi. The country had just gone through one of the most difficult times in its history, the emergency. From 1975 to 1977, civil liberties were suspended. Political leaders were arrested. Free speech was silenced. It was a dark period for Indian democracy. And during this time, Narendra Modi was not sitting quietly. Though still a young worker in the RSS, he worked underground, secretly carrying messages, helping activists escape police raids, and writing pamphlets that spoke the truth. He even disguised himself at times, wearing different clothes, traveling at night, and sleeping in hidden shelters. He risked everything, not for power, not for position, but for freedom. It was during this time that people truly began to see the strength of his character. He was calm in chaos, brave in fear. and always focused on the bigger goal, serving the people of India. After the emergency ended, India slowly returned to normal. Narendra continued his work in the RSS and became known as an organizer, a strategist, and someone who could be trusted to get things done. He was a man who never wasted time, a man who listened more than he spoke, a man who led by example. But then came a turning point. In the early 1980s, the RSS asked Narendra Modi to work full-time with its political wing, the Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP. He said yes, not because he wanted to be a politician, but because he believed that good people must not stay silent while others lead. He believed that honest, disciplined, and patriotic citizens must step forward to guide the nation. At first, he worked behind the scenes, organizing rallies, building party units in rural areas, helping leaders write speeches. He didn't seek the spotlight. In fact, he avoided it. But slowly, the spotlight began to find him. People noticed his sharp mind, his incredible memory, his clarity of thought, and above all, his unshakable dedication. He would often travel for days without rest, speaking to villagers, listening to their problems, and understanding what India truly needed. In 1995, the BJP came to power in Gujarat. Modi, who had always worked in the background, now began shaping the party's strategy and growth across the state. But leadership is not always smooth. In 2001, a powerful earthquake struck Gujarat, killing thousands and destroying entire towns. The people were broken. The state needed strong leadership. The BJP needed someone who could rebuild not just buildings, but hope. And so, Narendra Modi was chosen to be the chief minister of Gujarat. It was not an easy decision. Some questioned his lack of administrative experience. Others doubted if a man so quiet and disciplined could lead a government. But Narendra Modi stepped forward, not with arrogance, but with courage. In his very first speech, he said, "I am not here to rule. I am here to serve." He immediately got to work. Day and night, he focused on relief, rescue, and rebuilding. Roads were repaired, homes were rebuilt, schools were reopened, power returned, businesses came back to life. And slowly, the people began to believe again. This was just the beginning. Modi's leadership in Gujarat soon became a model. He launched initiatives to bring electricity to every village. He focused on girl-child education through campaigns like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. He promoted technology, infrastructure, and cleanliness. He made systems more transparent and efficient. From small farmers to big industries, everyone began to feel the change. But even as he rose in power, he stayed the same in spirit. He still lived simply. He still worked 18 hours a day. He still prayed every morning. And he still called himself a Sivak, a humble servant of the people. By the late 2000s, Narendra Modi was no longer just the chief minister of Gujarat. He had become a symbol of strong leadership, a symbol of what disciplined, honest, and visionary governance could look like. And across India, people began to ask, if he can do this for Gujarat, what could he do for the whole country? A new chapter was about to begin. Chapter 4, the 2014 election, A New Hope. The year was 2013, and India stood at a crossroads. Across the country, people were growing restless. Prices were rising. Corruption scandals filled the newspapers. Young people struggled to find jobs. Farmers were in pain. The middle class felt unheard. There was frustration, disappointment, and a silent cry for change. The nation was losing faith, not in democracy, but in its leadership. At that moment, one name began to echo in every corner of India: Narendra Modi. He had already served over a decade as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. His governance had brought electricity to the darkest villages. His policies had built roads where none existed before. He had brought investment, industries, and innovation to a once-forgotten state. People began to hope. If he could transform Gujarat, maybe he could transform India too. But it wasn't just about economics or infrastructure. It was about something deeper. Narendra Modi had come from the very heart of India, from poverty, from struggle, from a life that most politicians had never known. He had walked the dusty lanes. He had lived without luxury. He knew the pain of the common man, not from reports or speeches, but from experience. In September 2013, the Bharatiya Janata Party declared Narendra Modi as its prime ministerial candidate for the 2014 general election. And everything changed. He launched a campaign unlike anything India had seen before. Not with glamour, not with promises written by others, but with a dream. A dream called Achhe Din, good days. He spoke in over 400 rallies across the nation. He addressed youth, farmers, entrepreneurs, women, students, laborers. His voice carried strength, but also emotion. When he spoke, people felt he was one of them, not above them. He told them, "I was born in poverty. I understand your pain. I don't want to become something. I want to do something for you." His speeches were filled with hope, not hatred, with vision, not division. He didn't talk about what he would take. He talked about what he would give. People began to gather in massive numbers. From small villages to big cities, from railway platforms to mobile phones, Narendra Modi's message spread like fire, fueled by belief. He used technology in ways never seen before: 3D holograms, social media, live interactions. He connected with first-time voters, working women, and even Indian citizens living abroad. And everywhere he went, there was one chant: Ab ki baar, Modi Sarkar. This time, a Modi government. On May 16, 2014, history was made. The results came in, and they were unprecedented. The BJP, under Narendra Modi's leadership, won an absolute majority. No coalition, no compromise. For the first time in 30 years, a single party had earned the full mandate of the people. And the tea seller from Vadnagar, the boy who once wiped tables at a railway station, was now the Prime Minister of India. As he stood in front of the Parliament building in Delhi, for the first time after his victory, he didn't raise his hands in celebration. He bowed down and touched the steps of the Parliament with his forehead. It was a moment that moved millions. He wasn't celebrating power. He was respecting democracy. Later, in his speech, his voice cracked with emotion as he said, "I will not rule. I will serve." This is not a victory for Modi. This is a victory for the people of India. The world watched in awe, from presidents to peasants, from global CEOs to village elders. Everyone recognized that something special had happened. India had not just chosen a new leader. India had chosen a new story. A story where a common man could reach the highest seat, where dreams mattered more than background, where service mattered more than status. But Narendra Modi knew that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Chapter 5: Building a New India. The year was 2014. As the world watched, Narendra Modi stepped into South Block, the seat of the Prime Minister's office. The doors opened not just for a man, but for a new hope, a new energy, and a new dream for India. But he knew. This was not a victory parade. This was the beginning of a responsibility larger than life. Every morning, before sunrise, Narendra Modi would begin his day with meditation and prayers. He would then work for 16 to 18 hours without rest, reading reports, meeting ministers, analyzing data, addressing the nation, planning programs. He lived not in grandeur, but in service. He kept only the essentials. He didn't take a single day off. As Prime Minister, his mission was simple. Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. With everyone, for everyone's development, connecting India. One of his first dreams was to connect India, digitally, physically, and emotionally. He launched the Digital India campaign, aimed at bringing internet access to the most remote villages. He believed that every child should be able to study. Every farmer should get updates on crops and weather, and every citizen should be heard. He also launched Make in India, inviting the world to build and manufacture in India, creating jobs, boosting exports, and giving youth new opportunities. Across the nation, highways were built, railways modernized, and airports upgraded. Villages that had lived in darkness for generations suddenly saw the glow of electricity. One man from a rural village said, "For the first time, my daughter can study after sunset. For the first time, I feel like I belong to the future." And that was the emotion Modi carried with him every day, to give every Indian a future they deserved. Jan Dhan. The financial revolution. Modi saw that millions of Indians had no access to banks, no savings, no security. So he launched the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, the largest financial inclusion initiative in history. In just a few months, over 400 million bank accounts were opened for the poor. For the first time, a street vendor could save money. A widow could receive her pension directly. A farmer could get insurance without middlemen. It was not just economic reform. It was dignity. It was empowerment. Swachh Bharat, a Clean India mission. One of the most emotional campaigns of his first term was Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the Clean India mission. He remembered his childhood, watching his mother clean the house before sunrise, scrubbing floors with bare hands. He remembered how poor families had no toilets, no water, no safety. And so, he made cleanliness a national movement. He spoke openly about sanitation, even when others called it unfit for a prime minister. He wasn't ashamed. He said, "If I can clean my country, I can clean my soul." He built over 110 million toilets across India. He inspired celebrities, students, and soldiers to pick up a broom. He made sanitation a matter of national pride. A young girl once wrote to him, "Modi ji, earlier I was ashamed to go outside. Now I walk with dignity." And that was his victory, battling black money and corruption. In 2016, the world was shaken when Narendra Modi made one of the most bold and controversial moves in Indian economic history: demonetization. In a surprise late-night address, he declared that 500 rupee and 1,000 rupee notes would no longer be legal tender, effective immediately. It was a move aimed at curbing black money, fake currency, and corruption. There was chaos, long queues, confusion. But there was also a strange calm among the poor. They said, "If this is to catch the rich who cheat the country, we can bear a little pain." It wasn't easy. He was criticized. He was questioned. But he stood firm, not for himself, but for the larger mission, to clean India's financial system. A voice for the world's poor Modi wasn't just changing India. He was giving voice to the developing world. from global climate summits to the United Nations, from G20 meetings to Africa forums. He spoke not just as India's Prime Minister, but as a representative of every country that once felt ignored. He made yoga a global celebration by initiating International Yoga Day, observed in over 180 countries. The world watched as this ancient Indian practice united people from all walks of life. He was awarded the Global Goalkeeper Award, the UN's Champions of the Earth, and other international honors. But when he received them, he always said, "These are not awards for me. They are the blessings of the people of India." Chapter 6. The 2019 Victory and the People's Faith. By the time the next general election approached in 2019, India had changed. There were more roads, more bank accounts, more toilets, more electricity, more voice for the poor. But there were also challenges: unemployment, criticism, and questions. Not everyone agreed with his decisions, but even his strongest critics admitted one thing: Modi works hard, and Modi cares. The nation was ready to choose again. As Narendra Modi stepped back onto the campaign trail, it wasn't with arrogance or overconfidence. It was with gratitude toward the people who had stood by him, corrected him, believed in him. He said in his speech, "I am not perfect, but I am sincere. I live for one goal only: Bharat Mata." His campaign was not just political, it was personal. He spoke not to win power, but to remind people of the journey they had all walked together. There were emotional moments in every corner of the country. Women came forward and said, "He gave us gas cylinders. We no longer cook and smoke." Youth said, "He brought internet to our village. I can now study and dream." Seniors said, "He gives us respect. We feel seen again." And then came May 23rd, 2019. The results were clear: a landslide victory, more votes, more seats, a stronger mandate than even in 2014. It was a moment of tears and triumph. Narendra Modi stood before the nation again, but his words were soft, humble. This is not Modi's victory. This is the victory of 1.3 billion Indians. He thanked the people. He folded his hands. And then, once again, he got back to work. A bold start to a new term. Within weeks of taking office for the second time, he made decisions that would define history. One of the most emotional and long-standing issues was Article 370, a special status given to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. For decades, this article had kept the region isolated in law. It was seen by many as a barrier to integration and development. In August 2019, Modi's government revoked Article 370. The country watched in awe. It was a moment of courage, not without risks. But he believed that every Indian should be equal, whether born in Delhi, Mumbai, or Srinagar. In the parliament, as MPs stood and clapped, Narendra Modi closed his eyes briefly. His heart was full. He wasn't thinking of votes. He was thinking of unity. Next came the Ram Mandir issue, another matter close to the hearts of millions. For decades, people had waited, hoped, prayed. Finally, through legal process and national patience, the way was cleared. In August 2020, Prime Minister Modi laid the foundation stone of the Ram Temple in Ayodhya. As he stood there in traditional dress, barefoot, in the holy city, he said, "This is not just stone and soil. This is faith. This is history. This is the soul of India." It was a moment when millions wept, not out of sadness, but out of a feeling that their deepest beliefs had been seen and respected. A test like no other. COVID-19. But no leadership is without its darkest hour. And for Modi, that hour came in 2020. The world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. It did not matter how rich or poor a country was. No one was prepared. India, with its population of over 1 billion people, stood on the edge of uncertainty. The Prime Minister made a difficult decision. He announced a complete lockdown, one of the strictest in the world. He appeared on television, looking tired but determined. He folded his hands and said, "I know this will cause hardship, but saving lives is our first duty." It was one of the hardest times India had faced in decades. Migrant workers walked for days. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Families were separated. The fear was everywhere. But during those dark nights, Narendra Modi became more than a leader. He became a comforting voice, a father figure, a symbol of strength. He addressed the nation multiple times, offering assurance, guidance, hope. He launched the PM-CAERES Fund to support those most in need. His team worked day and night to produce PPE kits, ventilators, and later, vaccines. In a remarkable achievement, India launched the world's largest vaccination drive. Over 2 billion doses were administered. And when vaccines were ready, India didn't just take care of its own. It gave vaccines to over 100 countries under the initiative Vaccine Maitri. In the middle of tragedy, India chose compassion. And Narendra Modi stood at the center, tired, tested, but never broken. A new kind of leadership. As the world changed, so did India. Digital payments became normal. Rural students started learning online. Small businesses went global. Through every speech, every policy, every challenge, Narendra Modi reminded the nation of one truth. I am not here to enjoy the seat. I am here to carry its weight. He was awarded the Legion of Honor in France, the Order of Zayed in the UAE, and the highest civilian awards from several nations. But he kept saying the same thing. These are not Modi's achievements. These are the achievements of India. He never claimed perfection. He never promised magic. He promised hard work, and he delivered it, day after day, year after year. Chapter 7. The Global Stage and the Road Ahead. Hello to everyone, and thank you for staying with this story. As we step into the final chapter of this emotional journey, we don't just talk about a man anymore. We talk about a movement, a spirit, a belief that no dream is too big when the heart is strong and the purpose is pure. By 2023, Narendra Modi was no longer just the Prime Minister of India. He had become one of the most recognized and respected leaders in the world. He stood tall on the world stage, but he still spoke the language of the soil. He visited powerful nations, spoke in prestigious parliaments, shared stages with global giants, but he never forgot his roots. India's voice to the world. He made the world look at India not just as a market, but as a moral force, a source of wisdom, a pillar of peace and possibility. He brought ancient Indian values to global problems: climate change, terrorism, poverty, inequality. In 2023, India hosted the G20 summit. It was one of the grandest diplomatic events in Indian history. Leaders from around the world came to Delhi. The roads were lit. The flags waved. But the heart of the summit was a simple idea Modi repeated again and again. This is not about rich or poor, north or south, east or west. This is about one earth, one family, one future. India was no longer a silent observer. India was leading conversations on tech, trade, tradition, and togetherness, personal discipline, public dedication. Even with the praise and the power, Modi's life remained incredibly disciplined. He continued to wake up before dawn. He continued to fast during festivals. He continued to meditate and pray in silence. He carried no luxury, no family in politics, no private vacations. When asked once if he missed his personal life, he smiled and said, "When the country becomes your family, you don't feel alone." That sentence speaks of deep sacrifice, of emotional solitude, but also of immense love. Because for Narendra Modi, India was not a country, it was his heartbeat. Moments that touched millions. There were times when tears came to his eyes, even in public. During an interview, when asked about his mother, who passed away in 2022 at the age of 99, he grew quiet. He said, "She never asked for anything, just that I served the nation well." He paused, wiped a tear, and looked away. The leader was gone in that moment. Only the sun remained. And in those moments, people saw his truth. He was not a man who chased power. He was a man chosen by pain, sculpted by sacrifice, guided by service. The road ahead, a vision beyond. Today, even now, he continues to dream. A Viksit Bharat, a developed India, a digital India, where even the poor use smartphones with confidence. A clean India, green India, skilled India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, a self-reliant India. He speaks not of I, but always of we, not of promises, but of potential. In his 70s, when most would rest, Narendra Modi works harder than ever. Because he sees something most cannot, the rising soul of a billion hearts ready to take India to the world stage. He walks forward, not for applause, but because he believes the next generation must walk farther than him. Conclusion: the man and the message. So who is Narendra Modi? Is he the tea seller from Vadnagar? Is he the chief minister who rebuilt Gujarat? Is he the prime minister who changed India's course? Or is he the man who chose the path of service over self? The answer is simple. He is all of that. And something more, a living message that your past does not define your future, that your pain can become your power, that if your intention is pure and your effort is honest, no force in the world can stop you. And to every child in India who thinks, can someone like me ever rise? The answer will forever be, yes. Look at Narendra Modi.